A very pleasant good evening to you. Welcome to the Cranberry location of Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm Chris Shovlin, the play-by-play voice of the Robert Morris University Colonial basketball team. Andy Toole, of course, here hosting the show tonight at Buffalo Wild Wings in Cranberry. And we have another great crowd, Coach Toole. It's great to see so many Colonial fans here in the North Hills tonight.
Absolutely. I'm always a little nervous when we come out and see who's going to show up, but another great turnout. Matt Millett and his staff are getting it done.
Folks, show the people listening in on ESPN 970 that you're here tonight. Will you let us hear from you out there in the crowd? Thanks for coming out. I told you we had a big crowd here tonight. Andy, we have some great news about Robert Morris basketball over the weekend, and that is you sent the message and the team responded, and they responded resoundingly. And that is the top topic of the show tonight, obviously, because you started out in the conference season an unbelievable 0-2 and losing both of those first conference games at home at the Toole Center, which has never happened before. But you put the pedal down and you practiced hard. You got in the ears and the minds of the players, and you told them what the order of business would be, or the orders of business would be, and they responded, as I said, resoundingly and favorably over the weekend.
There's no doubt about it. I think defense, what we talked about last week when we were in Robinson, and we talked about how that would have to become our priority, and that's exactly what it was over the weekend. I thought we had numerous guys step up and play tremendous defense. I thought they did a great job helping each other and being there for each other at all times. If you're going to play good defense, it can't just be one guy. It's got to be, all five guys on the floor communicating, flying around, helping each other, making sure each other, if there's any kind of breakdown or any kind of help situation, that there's going to be one of their teammates there. And I think we did that time and time again over the weekend. And so it was great to see. It was great to see that the guys understood what we had gone through 2 weekends ago, understood how we could fix it, and then went out and tried their best to do that. And, obviously it was just 2 games, but I like the direction that the guys, went in over the weekend, and now we got to continue to try and build on that each day and continue to do it in practice and then continue to do it in the games.
I've watched you, I've listened to you, and I've seen you coach not only in the ball games but at practice. And, there are 3 things that you're looking for. Play smart, play hard, and play together. You got all of those 3 things accomplished in both of the victories. The 70-55 win over Monmouth this past Saturday night. A lot of folks got to see that game on replay last night on Root Sports here in Pittsburgh. And, of course, on Thursday night at Fairleigh Dickinson, that was the first answer that you got. That was an 88-54 demolition of the Knights. The Knights are not a bad ball club, but your guys laid them out.
No, we did. Right from the tip, we came out with great intensity and great effort. And you're exactly right. Playing hard, playing smart, and playing together are the 3 things that we have to do as a team night in and night out. And when we remove any piece of that equation, we're going to make our lives very interesting. And that's what we've done at times this year. And hopefully over the course of the season so far, with some of the ups and some of the downs that we've had, hopefully we've learned that lesson, that each and every time you step on the floor, now I keep reminding them we only have 14 games left. It's amazing how quickly the season goes by. 14 regular season games left. But we got to play hard, we got to play smart, we got to play together.
You're counting down those 14 regular season games that are left to the playoffs. Of course, in the minds of the seniors, and I know you have a couple of guys on the club who aren't going to be back next year. They're starting to count that down too, and I'm sure that's something you stress to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone imagines as soon as they step on campus as a freshman that their career is going to go on and on and on and on. And even to the sophomores, I tell the sophomores, hey, you're 14 games away from the midpoint of your college career. And you could probably think back to the first day you stepped on campus at Robert Morris like it was yesterday. It's going to be 10 years since I last played a college game coming up here pretty soon, and I think it was yesterday.
Sure.
And so it's amazing how quickly the time goes. It's amazing how quickly, if you don't take full advantage of each game you get to play, each time you get to come to practice, each time you get to work out, each time you get to be around your teammates in the locker room, if you don't take advantage of those opportunities, you're really missing out on big portions of your career. And, as much as we all want to believe that everyone's going to go on and play and play and play, it just doesn't happen. And you really got to make the most of the small time you have as a college basketball player. Everyone talks about college being the best 4 years of your life. And now if you can be a Division I student athlete and be part of a successful program at the same time, it just makes that experience so much better and so much more exciting. And I think we keep that countdown clock going a lot just to remind guys that this thing is going by quick. And if you don't start to enjoy each moment, you're going to miss a lot.
Now, we all know that you started your collegiate career at Elon and transferred to the University of Pennsylvania. When you were a senior at Penn playing for the Quakers, was that clock ticking in your head? Did you realize there was going to be a finite ending?
Yeah, absolutely. And Coach Dunphy was great at pointing that out to everybody. And I think, part of the reason that I did transfer is because I wanted more from my college career. When I was at Elon for the first 2 years, I was part of teams that were, just around 500. And I wanted more. I wanted an opportunity to go to the NCAA tournament. I wanted an opportunity to play, against maybe some bigger teams and some bigger name schools and things like that. And so I found that opportunity at Penn, and, I wanted to make the most of each and every chance I got. And, if you talk to a lot of the guys that played for Coach Dunphy, whether it's Penn or now at Temple, one of the first things that he always says is appreciating the opportunities. And it's something that he tells you each and every day. And, I guess after 3 years of hearing it, it kind of gets beaten in your brain a little bit. And I seem to be reminding my guys of that all the time as well.
You're listening to the Andy Toole Show. We're on ESPN 970, and tonight we're broadcasting live from Buffalo Wild Wings in Cranberry Township, just off of Route 19. If you're out and about in the North Hills or close enough to get to us, why don't you come on out? The wings are absolutely fabulous, and of course the drinks are superb as well. We have a nice contingent of Robert Morris basketball fans here with us tonight in Cranberry at Buffalo Wild Wings. I want to ask you a little bit about your playing career, because we want to talk about your players tonight. Last week I should say, we broke down the season and pretty much went game by game and non-conference into conference play. And I'd like to talk about the players tonight, but let's talk first about you. Now, I've seen a picture floating around on the internet of you standing on the rim on the back of a bankboard, and that was, you're telling me, 10 years ago now.
10 years ago. I wasn't standing, I was sitting, and that was my senior night, and we actually clinched the Ivy League championship that night. Ivy League's the only tournament, or the only league in the country that doesn't have a postseason tournament. And so we were 13-0 at the time. We just beat Cornell on my senior night, clinching, the Ivy championship and an NCAA berth. And a few years earlier, there was a guy who played at Penn named Michael Jordan, who was the first guy to kind of get up and sit on the rim after they won.
He was the other Michael Jordan.
The other Michael Jordan,
yes.
Now an assistant at Colgate. And he got up and sat on the rim. And so the following year, we didn't win the Ivy championship. And then the following year we did, and our only senior on that team, Dan Salamito, he got up and sat on the rim. And then, it was my turn the year after that. And I put it up in my office. It sits right, as I walk in my office, and every once in a while I can take a quick glance at it, and partly to remind myself about, the good experiences I had in my college career, and also to remind myself what you're doing this for. A chance to be a championship caliber team, a chance to have, an NCAA tournament berth, and be a part of, March Madness. And so it sits right, like I said, in my office, and every once in a while I take a look at it and smile, and it was a good night and a great experience for me.
Deep down inside, while it was going on, were you getting the full appreciation? Did you feel it that night when you did it?
No, you never do. You never understand, what you're doing at the time that it's happening. After now 10 years have gone, you look back and you think about how special it was. At that point in time, you were so consumed and just having won the game, and we had a game 2 days later, and I don't think you ever really give yourself the opportunity to step back and fully enjoy the moment as it's happening. And that's why it's so important to keep in contact with all friends of mine that were on that team, and whether we connect through Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or text messaging or phone calls, however it is, when I see a lot of those guys, and I still do see a lot of those guys, it's now the time that we reflect on those experiences and, how much fun we had on a team, and some of the things, obviously, that people would never know, the bus rides, the hotel trips, the, little goofy things that happen in practice, what coach called you, the guy who passed out running sprints, whatever it would be, those are some of the things that you talk about. And, I think when you're a part of a winning program and you're part of winning teams, it makes it that much easier to stay connected to people, because those are, really important parts of you as a person.
You mentioned Coach Dunphy. Fran Dunphy, of course, moved on from Penn. He's now at Temple University, just across town in Philadelphia. How much of his philosophy, how much of his game planning, how much of his ideas, how many of his ideas have you brought with you into your collegiate coaching career?
I'd say a good amount, and I would say that some of them I probably understand that I'm bringing with me, and some of them probably just kind of happen, like I said, because, things rub off on you, and there's certain things you do that you probably don't even realize that you do. But one of the things that immediately struck me, and one of the reasons I loved playing for Coach Dunphy, was his competitiveness, and that was something that, I've always been a competitive person, extremely competitive, and sometimes that gets me in trouble at home, but, I loved his competitiveness and his fire and his drive, his daily intensity. And I hope that's something that I can give to my guys and show them that that's, the way that you're supposed to attack the game and attack your preparation and attack practice is with that competitive spirit. And while you're in a practice setting and you're going, toe-to-toe with a teammate, you're helping him get better. You're helping the team improve. And Coach never allowed us to, take days off or drills off. And, he was right there to, subtly remind you that, the level of intensity needed to be picked up. And, I think that that's one of the biggest things I've taken and brought into our program here.
So many people, Coach Toole, graduate. They get out of basketball and they're out. They may not be lucky enough to get into coaching, or maybe they have other life plans, other career plans, and they're away from basketball. And I think they miss it a lot more than you. You stayed right in the game. You never really left the game after you graduated from college.
I didn't. I mean, I started playing this game at 4 years old. And, my mom always tells a story that we had an 8-foot hoop in our driveway, and I had a little, not a regular basketball, just a little kind of blow-up balloon ball.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And I would run in once a half hour and tell her I made a shot and run right back out. And so that really became my passion, was just being around the game. And every day of my life from the time I was 4 or 5 years old, I went to the gym. That's what I would do. In some way, shape, or form, I was involved with the game, watching the game, playing the game, practicing the game. And once my college career was over, I had opportunities to go and play overseas in Europe, and they just didn't seem to really fit timing-wise and stuff like that. And so I knew that I still wanted to continue to be around the game and continue to go to the gym every day. And I knew that if I could go to the gym each day, my day would probably be a little bit better than if I went to a cubicle or, an office. So that's kind of what I set out to do, and it's worked out really well.
After you left Penn, you became an assistant at Lafayette, and that was right before you came here to Robert Morris. Yep. With Coach Rice, and you were the main man on his staff under Mike Rice when he was here. What lessons did you learn at Lafayette, and how was that experience for you?
I worked for Fran O'Hanlon at Lafayette, and he is, one of the best offensive basketball minds that I've been around. And he has such a terrific way of, kind of running a program, planning practice, teaching the game. He really, really knows how to teach the game and communicate the game in its simplest form to, his players. And I think that that's one of the things that is a thing with good coaches is, being able to take something that's complex, whether it's an offensive scheme or a defensive scheme or opponent scouting report, and really break it down to its simplest form. And he was so good at communicating that and taking some of the things that we were doing on a daily basis in practice and using some real-life situations to kind of get his point across. And so just the way that you structure a program, I really learned from Coach O'Hanlon. And then was able, fortunate to come out and work with Mike. And Mike is someone I had known for a while before, about 10 or 12 years now, since I got out of school, and a little bit before that from our affiliation with the Hoop Group. Mm-hmm. And, Mike is someone that I always knew if he was fortunate enough to get a head coaching job, he'd be the kind of guy I'd want to work for. And that's exactly what happened. And, like I said, it's worked out for the better.
And I know that he has a very high mutual admiration and respect for the job that you do, so much so that he and Jimmy Martelli, another former assistant on the Robert Morris Club, came to the Fairleigh Dickinson game this past Thursday night to cheer on the Colonials.
Yeah, and I had to tell him to quiet down a little bit. He was heckling my assistant coaches. I had to remind him that he was the head coach of the State University of New Jersey and start acting like it. You can't go and start heckling. He was heckling Coach Gallo, I think, during a couple of the timeouts, and I had to get Coach Gallo to refocus. But, yeah, and it's not only, the respect for the coaching staff, but, him coming back to see Velton and Russell and Elijah and Karan Williams and some of those guys. It's nice when you see Russell coming out of the locker room and giving a big hug to Jimmy Martelli because he hasn't seen him in a little while.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of relationships that even though you might not talk on a daily basis or you might not see each other as much, once you see those people again, you really have a special place and you kind of pick up, where you left off. And Coach Rice and I talk all the time, probably, 4 or 5 times a week. Definitely talking and texting after wins or losses, about the game and about our teams and things. And it's such a great resource for me to have that I can bounce things off of him in a place where he was. He understands the landscape of the Northeast Conference. He understands the university. He understands the team. He understands our style and our system. And so to be able to really bounce things off him, it just gives me such a great confidence. And when he gives me, insight or recommendations that he really does know exactly what's going on a day-to-day basis and helps us with our decision making.
One of the other things that is cool too is the fact that so many of us who've been a part of the program, and you obviously right in the meat of the whole thing. You get to watch Mike Rice and Rutgers on television from time to time. They had a nice win over Pitt, and I realize we're in Pittsburgh and we're all Panther fans here, but let's face it.
You're a Panther fan. Speak for yourself.
I understand what you're saying.
I'm not a Panther fan.
I understand what you're saying. I've been a Panther fan for a long time, and of course, the Colonials always come first. But let's face it, when Rutgers and Mike Rice are playing Pitt, I'm rooting for Rutgers.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great for the university, too, because they always remind everyone where he got his start and some of the success that he had here at Robert Morris. And we're always trying to work and push our name and our notoriety and our reputation out there. And, so if he does well, I think it helps everyone.
Yeah, no question about it. Folks, you're listening to ESPN 970. This is the Andy Toole Coaches Show. Robert Morris University basketball is the subject matter, and I just wanted to get into the coaching mindset and where a lot of the philosophy came from with Coach Toole tonight. And obviously, he's had some great influences down through the years. You mentioned the Hoop Group, and the Colonials were over in New Jersey, and those are a bunch of real basketball people, real dedicated basketball people. Rob Kennedy and people like that who do so much in the teaching level of basketball from grade school on up. And some of the greatest players in the nation right now have gone through the program at the Hoop Group, and obviously you worked with them and had some influence on you from them.
I did. When I first, for those of you who don't know, when we went to Monmouth, we actually got to practice at, there's a 4-court indoor basketball facility there right in Neptune, New Jersey, called the Hoop Group headquarters. And my first job out of college was to be the director of that facility. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was running leagues, I was running camps, I was running clinics, and really flying by the seat of my pants. I think the first men's league I ran, we had about 12 teams, and I didn't know I had to pay the refs because I'd never been in a situation where the league director has to pay the refs. Usually you just show up, and I used to just show up and play. I didn't know anything other than that. So, getting timers and scorers and getting referees and that kind of thing was new to me, but it was a great experience. I always tell people it was almost like working at the Hoop Group was almost like getting your master's or your doctorate in basketball because you just were around the game so much. You were exposed to high school coaches, AAU coaches, players, parents. You dealt with the game of basketball on so many different levels. It prepares you for becoming a college coach. And all the people that used to work within the Hoop Group and now work in college coaching, I think there's about five guys that are head coaches right now that were former Hoop Group full-time employees. Chucky Martin, who's at Marist. Greg Vitrone, actually, who's at FDU. Mike Rice, obviously, at Rutgers, myself. And I'm missing somebody. I'm going to get in trouble for it. But, it's quite a little coaching tree that has come right out of there. And so, it was just, you were exposed to basketball 24/7. And working the number of events that we worked, the number of camps, the number of clinics, it really prepared you for working a season because you went to work at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning and you went home when the job was done. And if there was work on Saturday or there was work on Sunday, you went and you did that as well. And so, it really gave you a work ethic. It taught me how to really use the phone for information and just exposed me to so many different people. It was a great, great platform for me to get exposed to the world of basketball.
We're coming towards a break, and we'll take one shortly. But first, we've been asking the fans here at Buffalo Wild Wings and Cranberry to submit some questions for you. And also, you can tweet a question. And I understand it's hashtag AskToole on Twitter. Okay, it's AskToole, Toole, on Twitter if you want to ask Andy a question here tonight. And Claire is one of our guests here in the house, and she has a question for you, Coach. It says, hi, I have a question. How hard is it to coach at a very young age and just being a coach?
There's positives and there's negatives to it, Claire. Some of the positives to it are that you can really relate to your players and you have a little bit of idea what's going on. You know when they're trying to get something by on you. And then I think, when you go through the recruiting process or when you walk into a restaurant like this, when we go on the road and I walk into a restaurant like this and people ask me if I'm on the team, it's a little bit more difficult at that point in time when I have to remind them that I'm actually the coach. Coach Burns, who always says that he's old, and I tell him that he's not. He's 46. He always gets asked if he's the head coach. We have security guards that walk me to and from the game when we go on the road a lot, and they always shake their hand of Coach Burns. And he has to remind them that that's the head coach over there. So some of those things are pretty comical, but, I think being young and being energetic and being able to relate to the guys is really an important part of coaching, and I think that, it's definitely a benefit more than it is a an issue.
Clara, that's a great question. Thank you so much for submitting that. We have more questions coming in from the audience here at Buffalo Wild Wings in Cranberry Township tonight. Again, with head coach Andy Toole of the Robert Morris Colonials, I'm Chris Shovlin. We owe for this short time out. We'll be back with more of the Andy Toole radio show right here live on ESPN 970 coming up next. Actually, we're in Cranberry tonight, so we don't want to steer anybody wrong, but we are in Cranberry Township. And the Wings, how are the Wings, folks? Yeah, you know what? They can't even cheer because their mouths are full right now. So that's a good thing, though, here at Buffalo Wild Wings. Chris Shovlin, the voice of the Colonials, here with head coach Andy Toole. It's the Andy Toole radio show here tonight. Andy, I want to break down the last couple of games. Monmouth and Fairleigh Dickinson, 2 big wins for Robert Morris. Before we do that, we have a couple more questions coming in from Twitter. And one of them, who would win in a game of one-on-one, Coach Toole or point guard Velton Jones?
Tough question. I think there'd have to be a lot of stipulations on the game if I was to win, preferably like when he caught that elbow on Saturday night and it was down on the ground. That might be my only chance of going around him. But for those that don't know, and I'm sure Velton is not listening tonight and wouldn't want me telling this on the air, but they had a Colonial Chaos free throw shooting competition on our campus November 30th. And Velton and I were supposed to go toe-to-toe. You shoot as many free throws as you can in 6 minutes. And he got about 108 makes, and I think I had 158 makes. Woo. So he was beat pretty badly. I remind him of it very often. Karan Williams only had 153 as well, by the way. So I had the high score for our team, and I think the competition overall. And our guys were cheering against me. I think Russell was fouling me for about 2 of those 6 minutes as I was trying to shoot the free throws. He continually bumped me, but that's usually what Russell does. And but one-on-one, I think Velton, he might have a little bit better stamina than I do right now and a little more strength than I do, so he might be able to take me out.
All right, take us back 10 years. Who would win the game?
Oh, I definitely win. even if I couldn't win, there's no way I would admit that I couldn't. So I would definitely win the game. I'd just give Velton space, and I'd mess with his mind a little bit and have him miss a couple jump shots, and then he would get angry. That would be my game plan, I think.
Spoken like a confident Penn Quaker back in the day.
Exactly.
Coach Andy Toole of Robert Morris University. Big wins this weekend. Let's start with Fairleigh Dickinson. You mentioned Karan Williams' name at the free throw line in that Colonial Chaos shootout, but I'll tell you what, it was the three-point line where he went absolutely berserk from this past Thursday night. 27 points for Karan Williams. Probably could have had more, but you pulled him out of the ball game and rested some of the starters, gave some of the backup guys some playing time.
Yeah, we did, and Karan Williams actually got NEC Player of the Week this week.
Perfect.
And very, very deservingly so. I mean, he had two terrific games. He got us off to such a great start at FDU on Thursday. As soon as we got out of the gates, he made 2 or 3 threes early, gave us a nice cushion that we were able to use. You know, one of the things I think that helps us, and it helps every team, is when you can make a couple shots early and you can kind of settle into the game. It allows you to be really energetic defensively and you feel good about what's going on the court. And he certainly provided that for us. I mean, he was absolutely terrific. You know, his teammates did a really good job finding him, but he was shooting the ball in great rhythm. He had great confidence, and he mixed it up a little bit. I mean, 8 for 9 from the 3, but he created some plays. He got into the lane. He kind of diversified his offensive game a little bit, and that's something we talk to him about all the time.
And, Coach, he's one of those guys that maybe 2-3 years ago you kind of wondered, is he going to have a future with the program? Is he going to be around? Is he going to be able to contribute? This kid has stepped up his game. This young man, let me correct myself, has stepped up his game.
He's actually he's an old man, actually.
How old is he?
23 years old.
I didn't realize
He's an old
that.
man.
Okay.
Our guys make fun of him all the time because he's an old man. I'm not sure what's on his iPod, but it's certainly not up to date, I'll tell you that.
Well, that's okay. I think he was listening to Boys to Men in the bus the other day. Somebody asked him what he was listening to. Yeah, it wouldn't shock me at all. But here's a guy, in all fairness, I mean, a couple of years ago, you kind of wondered, what kind of role is he going to play? Is he going to be around? I mean, is this a guy who's going to be a part of the program 2, 3, 4 years down the road? And he has really proven his worth. And this is a young man who really has stepped up his game and has improved his own personal game to make him a better team player.
I think because he cares so much. He cares so much, and he has such a desire to become a good player. You know, he walked into our office his freshman year when he was redshirting and said, okay, what do I have to get better at? We knew how well he could shoot it. We knew that was a skill that he would always have. He said, what else do I need to do to get better? We said defend. And all of a sudden he went out and turned himself into a very, very solid position defender and someone who's not a liability on the defensive end of the floor. And now he's to the point where, he's a guy that we trust wholeheartedly to be out there in difficult situations, knowing that he's going to get a stop, be in the right spot, rotate properly, et cetera. And then after his sophomore year, he came in and said, what do I need to work on? We said, your ball handling. Mm-hmm. And we never had to go talk to him again. We didn't have to chase him down and say, are you going to the gym? Are you doing this? Are you doing this? Every time he walked by, you just heard the ball bounce. And you'd peek your head over the corner of the gym, and there would be C-Ron out there doing ball handling drills. Coach, can I have some foot quickness drills? Boom, here you go. And he just goes and does them. And it's not something you ever have to check up on. You never have to follow him around and see if he's doing it. You just see the results on the floor. And I know it's the same exact thing when he goes home. He takes those drills during the course of the summertime, and he's living in the gym. I mean, 2 summers ago, my cousin, who was a graduate assistant at VCU, he said C-Ron would not stop calling him on the phone saying, can you let me in the gym? Can you let me in the gym?
Sure, he's from
Because
Richmond.
he lives in that Richmond area there. And, whether he was playing pickup with the guys from VCU, whether he was getting shots up, whether he was trying to get in a workout, he just, he drove him crazy. And that's the kind of passion and dedication that we love to see in our players. And the more of those guys you can have on your roster, it's probably a pretty good chance you're going to have a good team.
I'll tell you how important it is that he has improved his ball handling. You've lost guards from time to time in ball games, whether it be foul trouble, whether somebody gets a tooth knocked out, or somebody gets knocked out cold.
Yep.
And he's had to turn into the point guard.
And he's done terrific at it. Last year it's something that, I would have been holding my breath if we would have had him do it for any stretch of time. But, we played this year at Arkansas. And he, Arkansas fastest 40 minutes in basketball and all that kind of stuff. He handled the ball excellently. He's jumped in 2 or 3 situations now where he's done an excellent job handling the ball. Ohio U, it happened. Ant Myers was out at Ohio U. Ohio U was turning over their opponents, 20-plus times a game. He got the ball down the floor. He got us into our offense. Now, he's not going to go out and make some of the plays that Ant or Velton are going to make, but you know what? As an option to those guys when one of them goes down, he's been absolutely terrific, and it hasn't stopped his ability to make shots at the same time, which is really key.
In the big Fairleigh Dickinson win, they got the conference part of the season turned around. Russell Johnson contributed mightily. He got to start that night. He's been starting lately. 10 rebounds in that game for Russ.
Yeah, 10 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists.
Double-double.
Yeah, it was his best game of the season so far. And I think part of the reason was it was his simplest game of the season. He didn't try and overcomplicate it. He didn't try and do things that, maybe look spectacular. He made simple plays. I believe over the weekend he only had 1 turnover, which is something that's, great for him because he had 6 assists on Saturday night. He had 5 assists on Thursday night. So if you have 11 assists and 1 turnover over the course of a weekend, you're being intelligent with your decision making, and you're also going out and being aggressive at the same time. And so that's the kind of balance that we need from Russ. We've always known he's been a great rebounder when he's engaged, and this weekend he certainly was that.
He's another guy. At the top of the show, we were talking about that clock is ticking. He's a senior, and he's running out of ball games to play as a collegian. So, he's got to keep that in mind, too. I'm sure you remind him.
14 more.
There's another reminder for him right there. Mike McFadden has really stepped up his game lately, too, your 5 guy.
Excellent weekend he had.
Yeah.
He averaged 12 points and 6 rebounds over the weekend. Was a great force in the beginning of the Monmouth game, someone that we could really get to and get some easy buckets. Monmouth plays a trapping, hectic, chaotic style of defense where they're trying to really speed you up, create tempo. And when you have a guy that you can throw it to and get easy points, it really limits your ability to be aggressive. And so Mike had 10 first half points there, really stabilized us, especially with Velton going out for, basically we weren't sure if he was going to come back, but a long stretch of the first half there. And so it was really, they tried to take away Karan Williams, they tried to take away Carvel Anderson, and Mike was the guy who found himself with a great matchup, and we went to him, and he produced.
One of the things I liked about the win at Fairleigh Dickinson is it was decisive enough that you were able to get some of the starters out of the ball game, some of the backups in, even the walk-ons got to play, and Shane Swigert got his first basket as a Colonial, which we applauded rather highly during that game. As a matter of fact, I think it was the only time I screamed and left my seat during the game. I was so excited for the guy because here's a guy who puts so much time in practice and really doesn't get involved in too many ball games. But everybody, bottom line, contributed for your cause.
And here's the best thing about Shane getting his bucket. He called his own number.
Did he really?
So there's a minute to go in the game, and Ant Myers is bringing the ball down the floor, and he's calling a play out. And I'm going, what is he calling a play out for? we're probably going to win the game. It's not necessary to score or run another play. And then when I realized what the play was, I said, oh, it's going to go to Shane. And so I said, okay, Ant, what a good teammate you are. You want to make sure you get him the ball. You want to get him a shot. So as we're walking off the court, I congratulate Ant. I said, that was really nice of you to call that play. He goes, oh, I didn't call it. Shane called it. I said, okay, well, Shane's got one thing on his mind when he gets in the game, and that's getting a bucket.
He's going to score.
That's exactly what he did. And like I said, anytime you can get Treadwell and Shane into a game, we love to do it. Those guys work so hard. They buy into everything we do, and they don't get a lot of the rewards of being able to play in those games. But they're such strong forces within the team because they're constantly, they're like having a fifth and a sixth coach. I mean, I think Treadwell can give you line by line what I'm going to say on each and every play, and he's on the sidelines or he's on the bench or he's under the basket during practice, and he's relaying that stuff to guys, why this is important and why you got to do it a certain way, and they're invaluable, that's for sure.
Yeah, Treadwell Lewis, the guy you're talking about from Shelton, Connecticut. But I can go on down the roster, and everybody played a role this week. I'm talking, everybody from, the starters that we mentioned, Carvel Anderson, of course, David Apollon out of Philadelphia helped out. Stephen Hawkins played pretty well at Monmouth the other night, and, you got them to respond, and that was the bottom line for the weekend. They came back with 2 big wins.
Yeah, and I think that when you talk about David Apollon and Stephen Hawkins and what guys did off the bench for us, we don't know what's going to happen. And Shub, you've been doing this long enough, a little longer than I have, but there's been situations even within my 3 years as the head coach or the 6 years that I've been here where injuries, foul trouble. Just strange things happen. And so the more guys that you can have that are going to be able to come in and give you positive minutes, the better a team you're going to have. And some of our better championship level teams that we've had have had that kind of depth, have had that kind of ability to play 8, 9, 10 guys. And some teams in the NEC don't have that luxury. And so we really try and develop that as we go through the course of the year, making sure there's as many guys as we can that we know can come in and can defend and play with the urgency you need to help our team at any time.
Anthony Myers-Pate is one of those guys who really had to play harder, play more intense-laden basketball, and that was because Belton Jones did get knocked out of the ball game at Monmouth on Saturday night.
And I thought he had a great second half.
Yeah.
He was disappointed after the game. He thought there were some plays that he could have made, a couple more shots that he could have made, but I thought he did a really, really nice job of keeping everybody organized in the second half, being aggressive. He had a big three-pointer from the top of the key. Had a couple nice drives, a couple great assists, and that's what we need from Ant. I think he's had a little bit of an ankle injury for a while here this season, and he's not the kind of guy that would ever publicize that or make that as an excuse because he's one of the hardest working guys that we have. He just shows up to practice every day. He never complains. Whatever we ask him to do, however much we ask him to run or however much we ask him to slide, he never complains. And so, I think that he's gonna really finish strong. I have good high hopes for the way that he finishes out this year.
And Coach Toole, that brings us to Belton Jones. How did he fare after the injury on Saturday night that kept him out of the ballgame? I know he was sitting at the end of the bench and wasn't saying very much at first, had a towel wrapped around his head, but then all of a sudden in the second half, we could see the smile coming back. So
yeah, the light bulb kind of came on for him. And the bus ride back, obviously the 6-hour bus ride we had back, you get a lot of time to recuperate, I think. He really started to come back. We stopped at a rest stop at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I saw him, and he, looked like he was his normal self. You could still see that he had a little bit of he wasn't exactly fully comfortable, but, his personality, he was, responding really well, and talked to him yesterday. We had off yesterday, and still had a little bit of a headache. Held him out of practice today just to kind of make sure, but I think he's bouncing back and should be fine for Thursday.
All right, that's great news. Chris Shovlin here, the voice of the Robert Morris University Colonial basketball team, and I'm with head coach Andy Toole. This is the Andy Toole Show. We're live at Buffalo Wild Wings in Cranberry Township tonight. And we're going to take a couple more questions. And again, if you want to ask Coach Toole a question, if you're in the house, just slip us a note up here at the table in front of us. Or if you're listening anywhere in the world, just go to Twitter. You could tweet your question to hashtag AskToole. That's AskToole. And we'll get to your question. Coach Toole, here's a question for you. They want you to comment on the Carvel Anderson story over the weekend that was in the Tribune Review, right?
Yeah, there was a great story on Carvel and just a little bit about his upbringing and some of the struggles that he's had throughout his life. And Bob Cohen, who's the did a really nice article on me last year, did the article on Carvel and spent a ton of time with Carvel, talked to a lot of people in and around Carvel's life, and I thought it was a tremendous article. I knew the story. I knew a lot of the stuff that was going to be in the article. Obviously, as you go through the recruiting process, you get to meet someone, but I think what it shows is, there's a lot of people out there that, have had difficult situations, and Carvel is a great example of someone who has never used those as an excuse, who's continued to work hard, who's had, good people around him that have helped kind of direct him in the right place, and now I think he's in a really good place. I think he appreciates where he's at, and I think, Robert Morris University uses that change of life, tagline. I think when he walks out next year with his diploma, I know he's going to do that. I think he's someone that should definitely be on that change of life billboard because he is I have great respect for him and everything that he's about.
His life has definitely changed here in just the first few months. Coach, what is the toughest road game in the Northeast Conference?
They're all tough. I think St. Francis, New York is one of the toughest just because of the atmosphere. They really pack that small little gym that they have, and it's a really difficult place to play. I would say LIU in the last 2 championship games has been a pretty tough atmosphere. But I think overall, I'd have to say when Mount St. Mary's is packed, that might be the toughest place to play. They get a great combination of not only people from Emmitsburg, but also, their students there, and they are right on top of you, and they don't stop. There's some people down there that they have a hobby of abusing opposing coaches.
They are professionals at it, aren't they?
and veterans at it too. They're not all young guys that are out there getting after you. So I would say Mount might be the toughest place to play when they got it full.
All right, more questions for Coach Toole coming up. Also, Drew McMinn, the head lacrosse coach at Robert Morris, is going to be joining us in the next segment as well. Again, you're listening to the Andy Toole Radio Show. We're talking Robert Morris basketball, Robert Morris University athletics in general. We'll come back after this break on ESPN 970. I could have sworn we were in Cranberry Township tonight. What about you?
That's where I drove.
That's me too. We are actually in Cranberry Township, but it's nice to know that we're here at Buffalo Wild Wings, and we'll be at a different location each and every week. I think Matt told me we're going to be in Monroeville next week, so we want everybody in the Robert Morris universe to come out, and if you live in a certain section of town, we're going to be there. Bring your family, bring your friends. Speaking of family, friends, and fraternity, the coaching fraternity at Robert Morris runs deep. And Coach Toole, we have one of our fellow coaches here tonight as a guest on your show. And, of course, Drew McMinn has found some great success with the Robert Morris lacrosse team.
Absolutely. He's the only guy at the table that's the Northeast Conference Coach of the Year, that's for sure. In his first year, too, no less. So he's put the pressure on us. He was undefeated last year in the Northeast Conference. And, he's been at Robert Morris for 7 years total. And not only as a similar path to myself, was an assistant coach with Bear Davis and was the offensive coordinator and had back-to-back number one, nation-leading scoring offenses during those years. And Craig Coleman and Greg Delamo, they know what they're doing, promote from within, right? And so Drew was given the opportunity to take over the program and has lifted them to even higher heights. And Drew, great to have you. Some of our best fans on campus are the lax guys that sit in the front row and make a whole bunch of noise. And I think our guys actually returned the favor decently during your season.
No, absolutely, and thanks for having me, Coach. It's certainly an honor to be on the show. And yeah, as far as the fan turnout goes, we certainly get it in return from you guys, and couldn't appreciate it anymore. So.
Well, your season hasn't started just yet. Your season runs February through May, but you're out there working out already, right?
Yeah, we are. We just got into the thick of things last week, and mainly started out with some conditioning and some skill work, and then this week hitting some early morning conditioning with the guys, and then some afternoon practices as well. So we're just getting into the routine of things right now.
Coach Toole, you would think that Coach McMinn and his squad would get some respect from the rest of the conference after what they did last year, but they're not favored this year.
No, and I think Northeast Conference actually is one of the up-and-coming lacrosse leagues, around the country. Obviously, CAA is one of the bigger and better East Coast leagues, but the NEC has some strong squads. Not only Robert Morris, but Bryant and Mount St. Mary's and some teams like that. So, I know that Coach McMinn's going to have them prepared. He's going to have them ready to go. We see those guys in the weight room all the time. We see them, working out during the off season, during their season, and they work as hard, if not harder, than any other program on our campus.
Drew, does that put a chip on your shoulder and on your team's shoulder?
Not too much. It's something that we talk about every day, is that we're just trying to improve and get better with every day that we work out. And based upon last year's results and preseason predictions, I mean, that's why you play the game, so we try not to worry about that stuff too much. So not too much of a chip there.
Obviously, we were talking at the top of the show when you were here and Andy mentioned that you took over for Bear Davis. Obviously, some of that philosophy has spilled over to you. Let's talk about some of the other influences you've had in being the head coach now here at Robert Morris University in La Crosse.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Coach Davis, first and foremost, I mean, had given me the opportunity right out of college to be able to become a college lacrosse coach, and becoming, more under his tutelage throughout my 6 years as an assistant with him. I certainly went back and forth constantly on different philosophies that he had, that I had, and after he left, we're still continuing on with a lot of the stuff that he had put in place. So there's definitely a carryover there, and just trying to continue to build what he had built at the start of their program. So
you had mentioned your teams are cheering for each other. Andy, obviously, you're busy with the basketball team, but how often do you get out and see some of the other sports on campus, like Drew's team?
We try and do it as much as we can, and we try and encourage our guys to do it all the time. I mean, one of the great things about Robert Morris is there's 23 Division I sports. There's over 500 Division I athletes on our campus, and so no one understands what each other are going through better than other athletes. And so if we can now be a presence at lacrosse or softball or football or all the other events that are going on campus, I think it's just nice, and it's been great even within the coaches of Drew will have study hall going on, and I'll send him an email and say, hey Drew, we got a big game, and he'll say, he'll rearrange his study hall so some of his guys can get there. And those are the kind of things that you have to do at a university like Robert Morris. Everyone's there to help each other out. Everyone's there to try and support each other, and I think you see it when you go to the different events, and the Zons are here who go to more events than anybody in the history of Robert Morris University, whether they're academic, athletic, or anything in between. They know. They go there and they see, Ellen will send me an email that says, hey, I saw your guys out at the field hockey game today. I saw them at women's soccer. I saw them here. I saw them there. And so, everybody's always looking out for each other, and everyone's always supporting each other.
That's great. Drew McMinn, the head lacrosse coach here at Robert Morris University. They were 5-0 in the NEC. They won the regular season championship and fell in the playoffs, but he is the defending Northeast Conference Coach of the Year in that particular sport. Drew, finally, tell us about your upcoming season, what you're looking forward to, who the toughest opponents will be.
It will be interesting going into the year. I mean, the one thing with lacrosse right now, I mean, having 65 teams in Division I with a lot of parity, I mean, there's tons of changeover. So, I mean, year to year to try to really guess, who our toughest competition is going to be is pretty difficult. And that's why we talk about just focusing on the stuff that's in our control and, again, making sure that we're improving on a daily basis. And we feel that if we can find a way to do that day by day, then, by the end of the year, hopefully it doesn't matter who steps in front of us. So. But, I mean, as far as the scheduling goes, certainly some teams that, I mean, we've geared towards trying to get the top teams in the country to play us. And, this year we have a couple teams that are in the top 20 that we're looking forward to. But, again, that's preseason rankings,
sure.
So that's only going to mean so much. So, but we're excited about all the teams that are on our schedule this year and, hopefully well into the postseason as well. So.
Coach, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you coming out to Cranberry tonight.
And
Thank you, guys.
Drew's also a Providence grad. I got to throw this in there. My brother is a Providence grad. In 1999, he was actually the class president. And I spent a couple weekends up there. Good place to hang out.
Absolutely.
Especially before you're actually legally allowed to hang out. So we can talk about some of that stuff after the show.
All right, we'll do that. Coach McMahon, thank you so much. Good luck to you
guys.
this year.
Thanks a lot.
All right, Drew McMahon, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us, the head lacrosse coach here at Robert Morris University. Coach Toole, we are running quickly out of time. We just have a few minutes left, but we have a lot of questions to answer. So let's get back to some of those questions, if I can find what I did with them here.
The time seems to go quick with you and I, Show.
It really does,
really flows.
I don't know what it is, but let's see. Here's a question from Jeff, who is a longtime Colonial follower. How was this year's preseason schedule, or how has the preseason schedule prepared your team for the NEC and conference play this year?
We talked about it a lot last week. I think it's prepared us well. I think it's allowed us to identify some of the things that we need to improve on. It's allowed us to identify some strengths. It's also provided us with great competition as we head into Northeast Conference play, and the number of teams that we played that provided us with just different looks offensively or defensively, similar to the ones that we're going to see during conference play. Each and every game has prepared us well, and I think not only playing the Ohio U's, the Duquesnes, and those people, but then playing the Arkansas and the Xaviers and some of those people that you want to test yourself and give yourself an opportunity to maybe beat somebody that's playing on ESPN every other night.
All right, this is the definitive loaded question. Who is the funniest player on your club?
There's so many categories of funny, it's really hard to identify exactly. And I know that sounds like a bailout, but there really is. We have some incredible characters. You know, the David Apollons and the Lucky Jones come to mind when you're looking. If you're looking for maybe a little bit more immature humor, you can go to those guys. If you're looking for a little wit, Russell Johnson's probably the head of the wit and the relentless category of humor. But we do have a group of guys who are extremely enjoyable to be around. You know, just being on the bus with those guys, spending time in hotels, and all the time that you spend together. If they didn't have good senses of humor, I don't know how all of us would be able to coexist. So I would probably go with Russell. Probably thinks he's the funniest, and so I'm going to give him the title of funniest right now.
See, I think Russell's the funniest too right now, but Dallas Green has everybody. In my 25 years here, Dallas Green picked on me just unbelievably. And you know what? I love him for it because he was just a great young man. I mean, he was the funniest guy in the history of the club.
One of the only things he was relentless as was getting after you, Shub. I know that.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. If you're picking on Karan's iPod, what's on your iPod? Okay, because you picked on C-Ron earlier.
I did. And my iPod is definitely better than C-Ron's iPod. I got quite a mixed bag. Majority of it being Bruce Springsteen. You know that's my guy.
Jersey Shore guy.
I mean, that's my guy. So I got it over my desk is a Springsteen quote. So Springsteen's number one. But I can go a bunch of different ways. I can go hip hop and rap. I can go, country music. There's some Frank Sinatra on there.
Man, you're all over the place.
I'm all over the place. I'm extremely moody. So whenever there's different moods, I need some different music.
That's good. Yeah, that's a great answer too. Very eclectic, if you will. All right, Kate from the Jersey Shore sends us a question. What's your favorite coaching moment?
My favorite coaching moment, I think, so far had to be the semifinal win at Quinnipiac. That was one of my favorite coaching moments. We had an unbelievable locker room scene after the game was over, and I think it was one of the first times that I really felt like I knew what I was doing, because that was such a big win for us, and it was such a great team win. You know, all year long you build through so many ups and downs, and to kind of have that kind of victory on someone else's floor, I think
30
so
seconds.
far has been my favorite moment.
You know, I think I've told you this in the past too. That was my very favorite Andy Toole coaching moment too. That just was an astounding win, and that whole place, I mean, they were just blue and gold, and they thought that they were going to walk away with it. But
15 seconds.
You got them.
Exactly.
Coach Toole, we are out of time here tonight, and again, it's a pleasure being with you here at Buffalo Wild Wings in Cranberry. Folks, thanks for coming out. We appreciate it very much. We'll talk to you next Monday night, the Andy Toole Coaches Show on ESPN 970.